Chag Sameach, everyone. Here we have a great opportunity. Chag of Sukkot is coming upon us, and we have two great mitzvot on the Chag of Sukkot. On the one hand, we have the Daled Minim, and on the other hand, we have the mitzvah of Sukkah. The Daled Minim are made up of 4 types of different agricultural fruits, or trees, or branches, whatever they may be, and they're meant to be the choicest, the best, the hadar, Pri Hadar, the etrog that you take. You look at it, you glance over and over and over. Some people with a glass under the light, making sure there's never a blemish, no anything. Same thing with the lulav, the tip, the hadassim. You want them perfectly lined up, and the aravot, and everyone takes so much care into the arba minim. And then we also have the sukkah on the other hand, and the sukkah is a beautiful mitzvah. We immerse our entire body in the mitzvah of sukkah, and yet the sukkah is made from junk. The Gemara calls it the psola, the garbage, literally, of the goren and the yekah. Whatever is left over that you don't want, take that and put it on top of your little hut and call that a sukkah. Junk, garbage, nothing. It's such an odd contrast. On the one hand, the hadar, the splendor, the glory, and the daled minim, and on the other hand, junk, nothing. What sense does that make? There's a story I'd like to share with you. There's a man named Phil living out in Seattle, and Phil was a very poor man, destitute, really no money whatsoever, but not given to handouts. And Phil every day was reading the paper, scouring the wanted ads to see if he can find himself a job. One day, Phil notices that in Microsoft, they're looking for a janitor, somebody to help them sweep the hallways, to clean the office at the end of the day, whatever it may be. And he thought, you know what, I can do that, and it's a respectable job. So he applied. He went over to Microsoft having worn his best suit, which is not all that great. He shows up at the office and he tells the secretary, I'm here for the job. She says, job? I mean, you don't look like the right person for a job at Microsoft. He says, no, it says right here, I really think I can do the job of janitor. She says, that job, please go over to Mike, the superintendent in the other building, he'll take care of you. He goes, fills out the forms, talks to Mike, and Mike and Phil really hit it off. And Mike says to Phil, I'd love to offer you the job. I just noticed though, on your form, you left out the spot for email. So Phil says, well, I left it blank because I don't have an email. Mike says, Phil, this is Microsoft. We're a computer genius company. People say that, computer genius? I just did. We're a computer genius company. We only communicate with email. This is early 90s. Not everyone has email yet. And Phil says to Mike, I don't even own a computer. I don't even know how to get an email account. Mike says to Phil, I like you, but I'm not going to be able to offer you a job. Phil leaves the office, and he's walking through the streets of Seattle, and he's upset, as we all would be. And as he's walking the streets, he sees a peddler with a food cart, and he's selling cherries. And he notices that the price of cherries is very cheap, $2 a pound, which at that time was very, very cheap. It's $2 a pound. He fishes into his pocket, and he grabs out the last $10 that he had. $10 that he had in his pocket, and he buys cherries. He buys 5 pounds of cherries, but he doesn't eat them. He goes over to his side of town and he sells the cherries. He sells them for $3 a pound, and he makes $15, a $5 profit. And he sold it very quickly, and he says to himself, you know what, maybe I could sell fruit. And he goes back to the push cart, and slowly but surely he starts to sell fruit in his side of town. And from selling it for the push cart, he buys his own push cart, and then he buys a storefront, and then 2 storefronts, and eventually he has a chain of farmers' fruit markets. And one day a big conglomerate wants to buy him out, and he's excited. It's a multi-million-dollar contract. From rags to riches, Phil has made it. And the lawyers are drawing up the contract, and they're discussing the finer details, and Phil's lawyer says to him, Phil, listen, it's getting late. Why don't you just go, I'll just email you the details of the contract. This is 5 years down the line, 6 years down the line. Phil says, well, I don't have email. And the lawyer says to him, shocked, you don't have email? How can that be? Imagine a person like you with email? You could be emailing China and getting mandarin oranges. You could be doing so much more if you had email. How could you not have email? Imagine how much better you could be doing. And Phil turns to his lawyer and he says, I promise you one thing, if I had email, I'd be sweeping the corridors of Microsoft right now. And that's a lesson for us all. Sometimes we look at ourselves and we think junk. I don't have what he has. If only I had what he has, then I could do amazing. If I had this, that guy over there, or that person over there, we look around and we just think what they have is great and what we have is junk. And the lesson of Sukkot is there is no such thing as junk. You look at the Daled Minim and you think that's beautiful, and the Sukkah, that's junk. The lesson is no. Even what is perceived as junk has a purpose. Even what is perceived as junk can be the most wonderful and glorious mitzvah of them all. How many mitzvot do you know that you can immerse your whole body within? This is an amazing opportunity. So this Sukkot, I urge all of us, myself and you out there in cyberspace, there's no such thing as junk. Internalize that message and learn to utilize all of your kochot, lamala, lamala, guru, mechayel al-chal, to continue to grow in your avodas Hashem, and never, never, ever think of anything as junk. Junk is not a word that should be in our vocabulary. There's only useful things in this world, and we should take advantage of it.